Hello, my friends. Today we will listen to an easy and adapted story about the history of England. This story is told slowly and clearly, with simple but natural English, to help you practice listening and understand the language better. You don't need to hurry. You don't need to understand every word. Just relax, listen carefully, and follow the story step by step. Let's begin our journey into the past. The first people of England. Long before England became a country, long before kings, castles, and cities, this land was already home to people. Thousands of years ago, the first people arrived in Britain. They crossed land bridges that connected Britain to mainland Europe. At that time, the land looked very different. These early people lived close to nature. They hunted animals, fished in rivers, and gathered plants and berries. Over time, different groups appeared. One of the most important groups were the Celts. The Celts lived in tribes. Each tribe had its own leaders, traditions, and beliefs. They believed strongly in nature and spirits. They built small villages and wooden houses. They used simple tools made of stone, wood, and metal. Life was not easy. People worked hard every day to survive, but they shared food, protected each other, and lived as strong communities. England was not called England yet. It was a land of tribes, forests, rivers, and open fields. But change was coming. A powerful empire was watching this land, and soon everything would begin to change. The Roman invasion. In the 1st century AD, a powerful empire turned its eyes toward Britain. This empire was Rome. The Romans were strong and well organized. They had trained soldiers, advanced weapons, and strict discipline. In the year 43 AD, the Roman army crossed the sea and invaded Britain. The local tribes tried to resist. They fought bravely, but the Romans were too powerful. Slowly, Rome took control of most of the land. The Romans stayed in Britain for almost 400 years. During this time, they changed the land in many ways. They built roads that connected towns and cities. These roads were strong and straight, and many of them are still used today. They built cities, baths, and markets. People began to live in larger communities. The Romans also brought new ideas. They introduced new laws, new ways of building, and new systems of government. Life became more organized, but not everyone was happy. Many local people lost their land. Others had to follow Roman rules and pay Roman taxes. To protect their land from attacks, the Romans built a large wall in the north. It is called Hadrian's Wall. It marked the edge of Roman control. But Rome could not stay forever. Over time, the Roman Empire grew weaker. It had problems in many parts of the world. In the early 400s, Roman soldiers left Britain. They returned to protect Rome itself. Britain was left without strong protection. The roads remained, the cities remained, but Roman power was gone. And once again, England was about to change. Anglo-Saxons and Viking times. After the Romans left Britain, the land became vulnerable. There was no strong army to protect it. Soon, new groups began to arrive from across the sea. They were called the Anglo-Saxons. The Anglo-Saxons came from areas that are now Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands. They arrived in small boats and settled in different parts of Britain. Over time, they formed kingdoms. Some of the most important kingdoms were Wessex, Mercia, and Northumbria. The Anglo-Saxons were farmers and warriors. They built villages, grew crops, and raised animals. They also brought a new language. This language slowly developed into what we now call Old English. Many common English words today come from this time. Life was hard and often dangerous. Different kingdoms fought each other for land and power. And then a new threat appeared. From the north came the Vikings. The Vikings came from Scandinavia. They were skilled sailors and fierce fighters. At first, they arrived to raid. They attacked villages, took treasure, and left quickly. Later, many Vikings stayed. They settled on the land and built their own communities. There were many battles between the Anglo-Saxons and the Vikings. One of the most famous Anglo-Saxon kings was Alfred the Great. He fought the Vikings and defended his kingdom. In the end, the two groups began to mix. They shared land, culture, and even language. England was slowly becoming a united land. But another great change was coming. In the year 1066, a new invasion would change England forever. The Norman Conquest. The year 1066 became one of the most important years in the history of England. In this year, England faced a new invasion. The King of England had died without a clear heir. This created a serious problem. Several men wanted to become the new king. One of them was William, the Duke of Normandy, from what is now northern France. William believed that he had a right to the English throne. He gathered an army and crossed the sea to England. On the 14th of October 1066, two armies met near a place called Hastings. The English army was led by King Harold Godwinson. They fought bravely, but the Norman army was strong and well trained. The battle lasted all day. In the end, King Harold was killed and the Normans won. William became the new King of England. He became known as William the Conqueror. This victory changed England deeply. The Norman rulers took control of the land. They built strong stone castles to protect their power. The English system of rule changed. New laws were introduced. The king now had much more control. The Norman Conquest also changed the English language. The Normans spoke French. For many years, the rich and powerful people spoke French, while ordinary people spoke Old English. Over time, the two languages mixed. This is why modern English has words from both Germanic and French origins. England was no longer the same country. Its rulers, language, and culture had all begun to change, and these changes would shape England for centuries to come. Kings, queens, and the Middle Ages. After the Norman Conquest, England entered a long period called the Middle Ages. During this time, kings and queens ruled the country, and power was strongly connected to land. The king owned all the land. He gave parts of it to powerful lords. These lords promised loyalty and military support. This system was called feudalism. Below the lords were knights and soldiers. At the bottom were peasants and farmers. Most people lived simple lives. They worked on the land and grew food for their families and their lords. Life was hard and often short. There was little medicine. People faced hunger, disease, and war. To protect themselves, lords built castles. Castles were strong stone buildings with thick walls and towers. They were symbols of power and control. Inside castles, life was very different. The rich ate well and lived in comfort, while ordinary people worked outside the walls. Religion was very important during the Middle Ages. The church played a central role in daily life. People went to church regularly. They believed strongly in God and the afterlife. Monasteries became places of learning. Monks copied books by hand and helped preserve knowledge. Kings often argued with each other and with the church. Power was not always peaceful. Slowly, new ideas began to appear. People started to question authority. They wanted rules and fairness, not just power. These ideas would soon lead to an important moment in English history, a moment that changed the relationship between the king and the people. The Magna Carta and the idea of rights. In the early 1200s, England was ruled by King John. He was a powerful king, but he was not popular. King John raised taxes often. He demanded money from nobles and landowners. Many people felt angry and treated unfairly. The king also made decisions without listening to others. He believed his power came only from his position. Over time, the nobles began to resist. They wanted limits on the king's power. They wanted clear rules and protection. In the year 1215, the nobles forced King John to meet them near the River Thames. There, the king agreed to sign an important document. This document was called the Magna Carta, which means Great Charter. The Magna Carta said something new and powerful. It said that the king was not above the law. It said that even the king had to follow rules. The document also promised basic rights and protections. It said people should not be punished without a fair trial. It said the king could not take land or money without a legal reason. At first, the Magna Carta protected mainly the nobles. Ordinary people did not feel its effects right away. But the idea was important. It introduced a new way of thinking. Power should have limits. Rules should apply to everyone. Over time, these ideas grew stronger. They influenced future laws, governments, and ideas about freedom. The Magna Carta did not create democracy, but it planted a seed that would grow into the idea of rights, justice, and fair government. England was changing again. And even bigger changes were still to come. The Tudor period and big changes. In the late 1400s, England entered a new and powerful period called the Tudor era. The Tudor family came to power after many years of war and instability. People hoped for peace and strong leadership. One of the most famous Tudor kings was Henry VIII. Henry VIII is remembered for two main reasons: his many marriages and the big changes he made to religion. At that time, England was part of the Catholic Church. The Pope in Rome had great influence. Henry wanted a son to be his heir. When the church did not allow him to end his marriage, he made a dramatic decision. He broke away from the Catholic Church and created the Church of England. This was a turning point in English history. The king became the head of the church. Religion and politics became deeply connected. Many monasteries were closed. Their land and wealth were taken by the crown. These changes were difficult and painful for many people. After Henry VIII, his daughter Elizabeth I became queen. Her reign is often called a golden age. Elizabeth was intelligent and strong. She ruled for many years and brought stability to the country. During her time, England became stronger at sea. Exploration and trade grew. English ships traveled far, and England began to look beyond Europe. Culture also flourished. Writers, poets, and thinkers created works that are still admired today. By the end of the Tudor period, England was no longer a small island kingdom. It was becoming a confident and ambitious nation, and its influence was only beginning to grow. The British Empire. After the Tudor period, England continued to grow in power and influence. In the 1600s and 1700s, England began to build an empire. English ships traveled across the oceans. They reached Africa, Asia, the Americas, and Australia. England created colonies in many parts of the world. These colonies were controlled from Britain. Trade became very important. Britain traded goods like tea, sugar, cotton, and spices. This trade brought great wealth to the country. Over time, Britain became one of the strongest nations in the world. The empire continued to grow. At its largest point, it was said that the sun never set on the British Empire because it covered so many parts of the world. But empire also brought problems. Local people in the colonies often lost their land, their freedom, and their rights. Many were forced to work in difficult conditions. Slavery and exploitation became part of the imperial system. In Britain, people enjoyed new goods and growing cities, but far away, many others suffered. Slowly, people began to question the empire. They asked important questions. Was this power fair? Was it right? In the 1900s, the empire began to change. Many colonies demanded independence. One by one, they became free nations. The British Empire did not disappear overnight, but its power slowly faded. What remained was a deep and complex legacy. A legacy that still influences the world today. Modern England. In the 1800s, England entered a new age called the Industrial Revolution. Machines began to change daily life. Factories were built. New inventions appeared. Many people left the countryside and moved to cities to find work. Cities grew very fast. London, Manchester, and Birmingham became large industrial centers. Life in the cities was not easy. People worked long hours in factories. The air was dirty and homes were crowded. But industry also brought progress. Transportation improved. Railways connected cities and towns. Education slowly became more important. In the 1900s, England faced 2 world wars. Many lives were lost. Cities were damaged. Families were separated. But the country survived. After the wars, England began to rebuild. People worked together to create a fairer society. The government introduced public health care and education. Life slowly improved for many families. Over time, England became a modern and multicultural country. People from many cultures and backgrounds came to live and work there. Today, England is part of a global world. It faces challenges, but it also continues to change and grow. Its history is long and complex, full of struggle, change, and resilience. And that history still shapes the country today. The legacy of England. England's history did not stay only on this island. Over many centuries, its ideas, language, and traditions traveled far beyond its borders. One of England's greatest legacies is the English language. Today, English is spoken in many countries around the world. It is used in business, science, travel, and education. English did not become global overnight. It spread through history, through trade, exploration, empire, and later through culture and technology. England also influenced ideas about law and government. The belief that power should have limits, that leaders must follow rules, and that people have rights became important far beyond England. Documents like the Magna Carta inspired other nations to think about justice and freedom. English literature and culture also left a deep mark. Writers, poets, and thinkers helped shape the way people understand the world, human nature, and society. At the same time, England's history is not simple or perfect. Empire, war, and inequality are also part of the story. Understanding England's past means looking at both its achievements and its mistakes. History is not about praise or blame. It is about learning. And England's story continues to influence the modern world in many visible and invisible ways. And now, our journey through the history of England comes to an end. We began with the first people on this land. We followed invaders, kings, queens, and workers. We saw power, struggle, change, and growth. England's history is long and complex. It is full of progress and pain, success and failure. But this story teaches us something important. Countries are not built in one moment. They are shaped over time by ordinary people, difficult choices, and powerful ideas. Thank you for listening and learning with me. If you enjoyed this story, take a moment to listen again. Repetition helps your English grow stronger. And remember, language, like history, is a journey. I'll see you in the next story.